Guys, we had to turn to a favorite uncle of this time. I think this is now his third appearance, maybe third or fourth appearance on the podcast. And so, if we turn to someone that many times, that should tell you, the listening audience, just how much we enjoy this person. And it should tell the person just how much the listening audience enjoys hearing from this person. He's a senior writer or columnist for The Athletic Nashville and the co-host of Robbie and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. My goodness, that takes a lot of stamina to do a 4-hour morning show. He is the Rexrode of Robbie and Rexrode. That's right. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe Rexrode. He is Joe Rexrode. Joe, how are you, man?
I'm good, Austin. Thank you for the very kind intro. If that got any nicer, I was about to join NWI's restraining order against you guys.
It hasn't been filed in court yet, but I'm sure it's coming at some point now that he has more time on his hands.
Yeah, the restraining order that NWI has out against us is still it's in this like limbo phase right now. It is the lawyers are going through the paperwork until the judge hammers the gavel. We technically can still get within 50 yards of him. So
this is the time period to get like even closer than that, I guess.
We are trying to crawl through his window like an episode of Dawson's Creek.
Joe, how's that been since the season's ended? Obviously we miss our NWI fix, but you're right there with us. You're riding shotgun on the NWI train.
That is true. Yeah.
How are you
doing?
Down,
you're going down with us, Joe.
That's true. And actually, like in all seriousness, really the restraining order, if there's like a class action restraining order, then it would really be all of us on the same side of that, right? Yeah, I will say I have to make an admission. We were talking on the show not long ago. Like, I think it was like about Julio Jones. And I went through, I went through a bunch of guys. Cam Batson could come back, and I didn't mention NWI, which I feel very badly about. Feel very, very badly about. That's purely a, lack of sleep, oversight on my part. It's not any sort of like pivot in, feelings on NWI.
Did anyone call you out on it?
No, it's he didn't, and it was afterward. I was like, God, I didn't mention NWI, so at least I at least caught it quickly. So yeah, I feel
that's like giving an acceptance speech and like forgetting to thank your mother.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank everybody, but like your wife.
Right. It doesn't mean I don't love her. It's just it was an oversight. The lights were on. The pressure.
Yes. Yes.
So Joe, NWI's coming back, right? Tell us it's coming back.
Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, I think yes, right? I mean, in all seriousness, I think I think not only is he a nice, a nice, extremely versatile, extremely respected guy to have in the receiving room. I mean, I feel like this coaching staff, like there's a handful of guys that they universally love, and he's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think if he had a little bit lesser role next year, that would speak to a better room and might be good for the team. But I mean, it's good to have a guy like that, for sure. And look, he in all seriousness, again, I keep saying in all seriousness on NWI because it's become this monster, but he overachieved and surprised a lot of people this year.
Yeah. Do you think if he gets somehow like walks or gets shown the door, like who takes his place? Like maybe someone like AJ Brown or something?
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see if he can work at it this off season,
All right. Well, good to know at least they have, their contingency plans.
He's a good apprentice. Yeah.
So, the Titans are going to have a pretty busy offseason, all things considered. I mean, all 32 teams around the league, there's a lot of roster reconstructing to do. And obviously that takes place with the draft, free agency, all kinds of stuff. But on the coaching staff side of things, Tim Kelly's brought in. And, this was a guy they were interested in last time the offensive coordinator position was open. They submitted an interview request to Houston that got blocked. So they couldn't, bring Tim Kelly in the time that they wanted. But now that they have him, Is it safe to say that Tim Kelly is kind of taking the reins here, or is he playing second fiddle to Downing this upcoming season? What do you expect out of that?
Well, I mean, I will say I've been told by multiple people in the organization, like this is not a takeover. This is not all that different from the Jim Schwartz thing. It seems to be that's kind of the company line. You know, that's kind of a unified message there. And I guess I believe the first part. Okay. Like I don't think he's coming in and he's going to be the de facto, the real OC, and Downing, you know, maybe go help with the tight ends, Todd, you know, or I mean, Todd Downing's still going to be calling plays and all that stuff. But it's hard for me to believe that this is exactly what the Schwartz role is. You know, I mean, the Schwartz role, again, my understanding of that is it sort of became available, and Mike Vrabel at first wasn't sure even about it, you know, and they figure they give it a try. It's like, gosh, why not? You got somebody who's kind of in a transitional period in his coaching career. He's got kids going to college. Like he kind of wants to just not be totally in the grinder, but he's obviously accomplished, valuable set of eyes. So give it a shot. And Vrabel really liked it. It actually turned out to be a really nice advising role, and just not really coaching players directly, but sort of helping the staff. I wouldn't say coaching coaches either. I think that's overstating it, but like he gave good input and it was valuable. I look at Tim Kelly, like you said, Jack. I mean, you know, they've looked at him as the possible answer at OC. He was with Vrabel before, and the title, I understand. I've been told this too. Don't get hung up on the title, you know, but the title tells me that it's going to be more of a front end role than what I understand Schwartz's role to be. So now look, and another thing, and this may have been true, I guess, last year. I mean, I suppose like if mid-season last season, it was a complete disaster on defense, was it possible that, like, you know, that Shane Ballmer would have been fired? I mean, I don't think that would have been Vrabel's choice in any instance, but sometimes the owner comes in and does stuff, right? And then you know, Schwartz could have taken over possibly. I do think this is a little bit more like this could be the OC down the road if things go a certain way. So I look at it differently, but not quite the way you explained it there.
So, you know, and that's another thing is everyone's going to look at it like the Jim Schwartz hire and how the defense turned around. But Tim Kelly's in his 30s. He's not in his 60s like Schwartz is. The consultant role really doesn't make a ton of sense for a guy who's coming in younger than the guy who's already in place. And another factor, are there too many cooks in the kitchen on offense? You know, calling a defense is fine, especially when you have one set play caller. But with Tim Kelly having play calling experience, Downing had not only 1 year as a Titans, but he served as a play caller for the Raiders back in the day. Is there an issue there? Because, you know, calling plays, you have to be in a rhythm as a play caller. And having a guy behind you kind of looking over your shoulder, maybe, you know, offering some input, that could throw you off, right?
Yeah, well, I would not expect that to be the case on game days. You know, to me, I know, you know, there's sometimes chaos on those headsets, but I mean, it should be Downing calling the play, and then of course Vrabel's. I mean, I would pay a lot of money for just one, you know, taped, you know, interaction with Vrabel all day on the headset would be amazing. But like, I can't imagine that it's going to be like Tim Kelly. Hold on, Todd. Hold on there, buddy. I got a better one for you. You know, I don't think it'll be that. You know, I mean, look, if it goes the way they're describing and the way that it would ideally work out, I mean, Tim Kelly, like the design stuff will be enhanced here, you know, and maybe there's some workload that can be taken off Todd Downing's plate, because I mean, just in the last game, we saw some predictability with Todd Downing's offense that you can't have, or just weirdness. I mean, again, the first pick, I still watch that play like who knows how many times, and I'm like, why exactly did you have nothing in place to try to draw the safety and cover three to the other side of the field? Like he was just like, oh, I'm going to go right over here. That's where he's throwing, you know? Mm-hmm. And again, I know it's easy for me to say, maybe someone made a mistake on that play, but it just looked like a bad play. And then, of course, the RPO that gets picked. I mean, and I think that may have been, I think that may be a little bit overblown because these teams rerun plays all the time. But bottom line is they had it pegged. And that's how that pick was so easy, because he knew exactly what Tannehill was going to do. And he backed up off the line, and it was almost a gimme. So, I don't know, stuff like that, play design, during the week stuff, you would hope as a Titans fan that that's where Tim Kelly makes an impact. And then if things go poorly, maybe then give Tim, go ahead, chime in a little bit with Todd. Maybe here, let's see.
Maybe it starts as like a 2nd and 10 run play veto, and it turns into a full game of play calling.
There's nothing that grinds my gears more than the 2nd and 10 run play. That happened on every 2nd and 10, and once on a 2nd and 11. I remember it was 2nd and 11, and he ran another run play. My gosh, it was so predictable. I feel like Arthur Smith put Tannehill in situations where it was hard for him to fail, and you just didn't get that this season, and thus is why you saw an increase in the number of interceptions and turnovers that Tannehill had. That's my personal opinion, just based off of what I've seen and what I've looked at. And it's to me, I don't know. It makes me miss that FedEx guy so much. So much.
Let me say a quick word about our friends at Relax the Back. CEO Glenn Word has made it his mission to not just enhance sleep, but enhance lives. Glenn was involved in a very serious car accident many years ago and was looking down the barrel of multiple surgeries to correct many different issues with his posture, his back, his neck. But before going under the knife, Glenn sought out preventative measures to correct his body through sleep technology, posture improvement, you name it. Over the course of time, Glenn's body self-corrected and he managed to avoid any procedures, which is what makes Relax the Back a passion project of his. The Relax the Back team sets out every day to help people in Nashville work better, live better, and feel better every single day. If you're like me and struggle with insomnia or posture issues or, just being awake when you should be asleep, this is the place for you. With a variety of chairs that combat neck and back pain for those of us who are sitting all day at work, along with Technogel and Tempur-Pedic pillows and mattresses to maximize your sleep every night, the Relax the Back team will make sure you are waking up and feeling great every day. Go check them out. 2020 Glen Echo Road in Nashville. It's right across the road from the Green Hills Regal Movie Theater. It's over in that shopping center area, if you know what I'm talking about. If you're unable to get there, no problem. Check them out online. stores.relaxtheback.com/Nashville and start feeling better today. When you head in and you see Glenn, he'll help you get fixed up with whatever it takes to make you feel better. But make sure to tell him that A to Z Sports sent you.
All right, Joe, I want to do an SAT question with you for if you're cool with it.
Sure. I mean, it's only been like 30 years. Yeah. I can
okay. All right. So I want you
all of the above.
I want you to rank these items in terms of most important to least important. Okay.
Okay.
Or not. Let's go least important to most important. Let's go least to most. Okay. Signing Harold Landry, re-signing, I guess I should say. Re-signing Ben Jones, or going out and adding a top of the market, not necessarily, like incredibly spending, obviously, because you can't with the cap room, but finding a serviceable tight end that is your go-to guy. So re-signing Harold Landry, re-signing Ben Jones, and finding a tight end. Where would you rank those in order of importance for the Titans this offseason?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, for least, most is easy for me. Okay, most of that on that list is easy for me. It's Landry. Least is tough. I guess I'd go the tight end and then Ben Jones and then to Landry, only because you can potentially address tight end in the draft. But, there are a lot of, I think, good prospects at tight end in the draft. The fact that there aren't any super duper great ones, that's probably not relevant to the Titans anyway. So I'd go there, but I think tight end's really important. And I think that they should. I think that they should do whatever they need to do to find room to go get one of those guys. I just, if they don't re-sign Ben Jones, so now are you going Corey Levin, or are you trying to draft the Iowa Linderbaum? And I mean, I just feel like it's really important to, like, they're going to be diminished somewhere on the offensive line. My guess is Saffold. So to me, if that is the move to save money by cutting Roger Saffold, then I think it makes it more important that Taylor Lewan and Ben Jones are back. And so then if you can have Nate Davis have a bounce back season and, well, maybe have Dylan Radins figure it out and become his right tackle, then you're just looking at one spot that, you can sort of address maybe with a combo of Aaron Brewer and maybe a mid-round pick. So I think you have to do it. I think Ben Jones, who, even though I know he's hurt all the time, he's also tough. He toughs it out and plays every Sunday. He's a leader on this team. He's a leader at the line of scrimmage. He's key. But all that said, Landry, like, you can't go backward with the pass rush. That's the best aspect of your team now, other than Derrick Henry.
Right.
And you can't let him get away.
Yeah, Jack and I had the Ben Jones talk like a week or two ago about how, like, people take for granted how good a good center is in the NFL. Yeah. And when you have one, you should not let him go. And I get it. I know he's getting old or older. He's in his early 30s. He's getting super old. But like, in terms of NFL,
the guy. Jeez.
yeah. Right. In terms of NFL, like, he's getting up there in age, it's about time to have that conversation. But yeah, I think we can't underestimate just how important of a role someone like Ben Jones is to this offense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And he's not, it's funny because, I guess probably about 3 years ago, right? 2018 season. I remember he just had kind of a bad stretch. I know, like, one of them was that the Ravens came in and he kind of just annihilated them up front. Yeah. And I remember thinking, boy, Ben Jones, man, it's looking a little.
Yeah, right.
And that's the funny thing is, like, back then he was like in his late 20s. He's getting a little late for Ben Jones. But right. No, he's proved me wrong, like many have. And I agree. It's nothing spectacular, but when you then don't have anyone that you really trust in that position, that's the person who calls with protections. You can't mess around with that.
Yeah. Now, speaking on the tight end front, I do feel like it is, obviously, and I think everyone agrees that it is an area on this Titans offense that they need to upgrade. And I just saw this. Obviously, this is the offseason. It's a time for speculation and hearsay and hypotheticals galore. There's nothing like there because it's the only thing we have to get us between now and September. There was a Miami Dolphins beat writer who threw out the fact that he thinks Mike Gesicki is coming to Tennessee. He said Gesicki is going to Tennessee. Remember, I said it. Okay. Now, clearly, that came from Omar Kelly, Miami Dolphins beat writer. Omar Kelly, I don't think is very familiar with the Titans cap space because I don't think, unless they let someone of significance walk, I don't know how they would be able to make that work, especially because, Gesicki is a really good player. And I think he had like a $44 million deal with Miami. He's in his final year, I think. And that to me is like, that's going to Toys R Us and asking your mom for like the best toy, like on the top shelf, and your mom being like, yeah, we just can't afford that right now. Okay. That to me is the whole Gesicki situation. But do you think that is high on the Titans priority list of giving Tannehill at least some other kind of target to mess with? Because I think that's one of the areas where Ryan Tannehill has benefited from in this offense in the past is just having so many targets. When he had Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis and AJ Brown, this is when the offense was at their best. Obviously they tried to bring in Julio Jones this past year when he was healthy, but they were missing that tight end piece. So do you think it's like that strength in numbers situation for the Titans to maybe get Tannehill back on track?
I do, but I also think just specifically that position they were just deficient this year. It wasn't good enough. And I do believe that there were a couple guys they would have drafted, and it didn't work out. But then you're leaning on Ferkser and talking up Ferkser, and it just didn't work out. I thought Jeff Swaim, really Michael Pruitt too, like both those guys came in, and I'd say they probably certainly at least lived up to expectations, but those expectations weren't very high. And I think he definitely missed Johnny Smith. I think you're right, Austin, that the offense he just had that consistent array of weapons. And even now, the one who wasn't consistent, but when he was in there, they benefited was Adam Humphries, even in the slot,
Right.
But certainly at tight end. So I think, and another thing is, in the 2 years with Arthur Smith as OC and Tannehill's quarterback, they were very much a 2 tight end offense. They were a 12 offense, and last year they were an 11 offense, a 3 receiver offense. And I feel like with the way they play, the way they want to run the ball, I think it would benefit Tannehill there as well to have more 2 tight end looks, to have less predictability. And if you have tight ends who can be matchup problems for people, who also are good blockers, that's where that becomes a really nice weapon for you. So I don't know if Todd Downing is going to be like, yeah, we got to go back and look just like we looked in 2020, but they've got to have a tight end. So I hear you on the cap room. I mean, there's going to be some cuts, probably some obvious ones. I mean, I think Saffold and Jenkins, I'd be surprised if those aren't 2 of the names, but maybe there's a surprise in there. And look, there's more contract restructuring that can be done. I mean, they can mess with Derrick Henry's contract. They can create some space, I would say, to try to get one guy. I would agree with you. Gesicki he's a guy who's probably going to carry a big price tag, but it makes sense. And I think they need something like that. There's a lot of other options, a little bit maybe lower cost, and like some maybe flawed players like a David Njoku, who I've always thought is really talented.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, I'm still like, I'll sit there and watch OJ Howard drop every pass over to him, and I'm still like thinking of Alabama OJ Howard.
I'm with you.
I swear this guy could be good. But you could go that route, and it would be a lot easier financially. But an Ertz, a Gesicki, sure, you can make it work.
Mm-hmm. So another position that they're going to have to address on the offense is that whether it's a number 2 wide receiver, number 3, whatever you want to call Julio Jones at this point in his career, and just the fact that he's been unavailable for a large part of last season. The wide receiver is a position they're going to have to address. Probably a guy with speed, that can take the top off of defense. That's an element of the Titans offense that they haven't really had. I get you had Khalif Raymond, but I mean, we're talking about an actual, threat. Is that a position you think the Titans solve in the draft? Because Will Fuller has been a name that's been connected to the Titans, and there's going to be a ton of names of free agents that have connections to the Titans, and Tim Kelly and Todd Downing. But do you think that they can afford, especially with the money that they're going to have to pay A.J. Brown, and they're already paying Julio Jones, do you think they can afford to address that in free agency, or is that a position you take maybe in the first round of the draft?
Yeah, the latter, Jack. I think every cent you can scrounge up, I would use it at tight end. And I know that you could also maybe get like a depth interior offensive lineman or something, like try to do something like you did with Kendall Lamb at tackle, but at guard, if Saffold's good. But for the most part, tight end. And then if I'm the Titans, I'm absolutely focusing in on receivers in the first round. It's a great crop, and it looks like, not that I read mock drafts all day long or anything, but it looks like there's a good chance of a really good receiver being there if they pick at 26. So that would be, and I agree with you, a vertical threat. I mean, we've been talking about it forever, and you're right. Khalif Raymond gave him a little bit of that. Taywan Taylor was supposed to be that, but they really they haven't really locked in on a guy like that and brought him in. And I think some of that is, it's like they've kind of gone with big physical, because that works in this offense, or true slot. But like a Chris Olave from Ohio State, to me, he's terrific, and he could be a dynamite slot receiver, but you put him on the outside. You can do a lot of stuff with him, and big play guy. I mean, if Jameson Williams, and yes, all the jokes are right there for everybody. You like that ACL, John Robinson, huh? You like that ACL. But I mean, the guy can burn, man. The guy absolutely can burn. And if he was there at 26, I think I would think they'd have a hard time passing up on him.
Yeah, I'm with you. Dotson out of Penn State's another one of those guys that I think is going to be very attractive. If you can have two of the three guys that were just mentioned on the board when you're picking at 26, that is a dream scenario for John Robinson, in my opinion. Speaking of dream scenarios, the Titans, the biggest news maybe of the offseason is that the Titans are, exploring options for a new home.
Yeah.
$600 million was the initial price tag on renovations for Nissan Stadium, but it looks like the cost is going to be around double that. So we're talking, in the ballpark of $1.2 billion. What do you make of this? And, I've got a couple questions because I love the location of Nissan Stadium right now, but do they kind of abandon that area and build, a strip of, a battery, like if you've been to Atlanta, like a battery, like surrounding to the stadium where there's a bunch of bars, sports bars, just things to do around that area? Because, Nashville, they love building new buildings, and especially if it's downtown. So what do you make of this news, and where do you think that they may land?
Yeah, well, and yes, I believe that is the plan, to have something like that. And that's part of, the revenue, situation. However that's worked out, the revenue from that ends up being a factor in this too. So, I think and this is talking to people, but it's also, you got to read tea leaves to some extent. There's nothing concrete on what's going to happen, but it just the fact that, the Titans were willing to kind of let this become public last week tells me, one, that they're like, this is kind of like floating it. So, there's going to be revenue discussions here, right? So let's get the public talking about this. And I'm guessing that, it's probably going to be an indoor stadium. Again, I don't know that for sure. And I personally, I love the setting. I love the outdoor stadium experience there. I love grass for football. And I do think that if they built a new stadium that was an outdoor stadium, that Nashville would still get a Super Bowl, but Nashville would not get, the Final Four, would not get the college football playoff or the SEC championship or whatever. I mean, you put a roof on the thing, and especially with this city, what it has become as an event city, you get anything you want, So I'm guessing it goes that way. But I also think, yes, that it will be, there will be another, there will be development around it for sure. Mixed use, bars, restaurants, condo. I mean, like, I think they want to do a big deal. And then there's a lot of questions around that too. Like, do you have enough room that you can like build while you're still playing Nissan, or do you have to like how does it all work around the area and everything? There's a ton of things to figure out, but I think that's the way it's going to go.
It's also just another excuse for the Titans to go back to the Coliseum, right? Rename it the Nissan Coliseum. If you want to stick with Nissan,
happen regardless if they get a new building or not. They just do it already. Just rename the stadium this year, Nissan Coliseum.
Yeah, why? Tell me, why exactly did it ever change from Coliseum?
Your guess is as good as
ours.
That
LP? Was that LP Stadium?
LP building.
It was LP Field. Yeah,
we should cancel Field, LP. Yeah. So that's how it happened. But I mean, going back to when Bud Adams got his stadium, when he was able to move the franchise, I mean, the elevators took years to build in there. It was kind of a bare bones deal.
It was very cookie cutter. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but I believe that's just because it was taxpayer funded, right? And so they made it as cheap as possible.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because it's literally, because if you think about it, Raymond James Stadium, I think, was built either the year before or year after. And then NRG Stadium, where the Texans play with the retractable roof, was built, I think, maybe a year or two after that. And so
not too far. Yeah.
It's not like the realm of building these elaborate stadiums was out of the possibility back then. It was just, I feel like the Titans, just when they went to originally build their stadium, went extremely cheap.
Yeah, and again, like, I mean, I look at that place and it's like, 20 years ago, it's still fine, and the location and a lot of that kind of make up for that. But yeah, at this point, there's a huge gap, of course, between this stadium and most of the other stadiums in the league. And that's where like the lease too comes into play, because, although it's sort of ambiguous, it is written in the lease agreement that like the city has to like keep it up, comparable to the,
right,
to other venues. So they owe about 25 million now on that. And that's just stuff the Titans have already done just to kind of keep freshening things up. So, but I mean, look, if it's going to be more than $1 billion to do this, then the new stadium makes sense. Now the question is, okay, so are they trying to build a stadium for 1-2, or are they willing to go to 1-6, or does it need to be 2?
Right.
And then, then you get into who all is paying and how are they paying and all that stuff. There's gonna be a lot of good times around all this in years to come in Nashville.
Now, one aspect of the stadium that I feel like they cannot change, right, is the Stadium Inn. Like, they got to keep that intact, right?
Wait, the what?
The Stadium Inn, right across the street from Nissan Stadium.
I don't even know. See, I have no clue.
5-star hotel.
Have I
Joe,
completely
it's probably, it's like, I mean, if there's like, there's like the Four Seasons and the Hilton and like all of the really fancy hotels. But like the Stadium Inn, the stadium. Oh yeah, you know what I'm talking about now.
If you know Mitch Firkins, that's where he likes to stay when he comes.
It's right across the street from the Shoney's. That's right.
The show, right? Okay.
You know what I'm
I have
talking
not.
about.
Do they have like a good buffet there? Because I have not.
Probably not.
At Shoney's or Stadium Inn?
Well, either one.
I know Shoney's does for sure. Stadium Inn probably does, but they probably don't even realize that they do. That's the grossness.
Can you get Shoney's delivered to Stadium Inn? Would be my question.
Uber Eats and Postmates make everything possible these days.
I don't know if anyone has ever stayed at Stadium Inn long enough to determine if you can get Shoney's delivered at Stadium Inn.
In your 40-minute stay, do you have time for a quick snack?
Oh man. So if and when the Super Bowl eventually does come to Nashville, is it cool if I crash at your place when I come in town for it?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'm assuming that means NWI is also tagging along. So,
Oh yeah. Without
he'll either be under your roof or at least 100 yards away from you guys.
Yeah. Or in my trunk, tied up.
We'll go bar hopping. It'll be great.
Right. My parents live in Nashville, but I figure I just crashed with Joe. All right. You guys, we have it here. You guys are my witnesses. The guy
I got a kid going to college next year, so we got a room opening up. So
perfect.
All right, there we go. There we go. I'm dibs. I'm claiming the way. All right, here's Joe Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie and Rexrode every morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. You can hear his sweet, sweet voice there. And yeah, if we get arrested for our love for NWI, we're taking him down with us. Joe, dude, thank you so much for the time, man. We appreciate it.
All right, fellas. Hey, as always, love coming on. Thanks for having me, guys.